Whoever controls the trade routes, controls the world. That idea, often associated with Alfred Thayer Mahan, is not just a theory from history, it is unfolding right now in the Horn of Africa. For years, Turkey was expanding its influence across this region through military bases, economic investments, and strategic partnerships. It looked like a long-term rise that would shape the future of East Africa. But today, something has changed. A new player is stepping in, quietly, strategically, and with a very different approach. That player is Israel. Here is the reality most people are missing. Turkey is not just slowing down, it is being outmaneuvered. And Israel is not entering like a traditional power that builds visible infrastructure and announces its presence loudly. Instead, it is targeting the most critical pressure points: security, intelligence, and high-level alliances. This is no longer simple competition between nations. It is a deeper shift in power, one that is less visible but potentially far more decisive. To understand this shift, you need to look at what Turkey built over the past decade. In Mogadishu, Turkey established one of its largest overseas military bases, trained local forces, and invested heavily in infrastructure and development. It positioned itself as a reliable partner and a dominant external influence in the region. For a time, it seemed unstoppable. Turkey was not just present, it was actively shaping the political and security landscape of the Horn of Africa. But geopolitics is not only about presence, it is about strategy. And this is where Israel's approach begins to change the game. Instead of large-scale public projects, Israel is moving with precision. It focuses on intelligence cooperation, strategic partnerships behind closed doors, and influence that operates quietly but effectively. This kind of power does not always make headlines, but it often determines outcomes. There is a well-known idea from Niccolò Machiavelli: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. In today's geopolitical reality, however, the most effective power is something even more subtle: to be trusted quietly while shaping decisions from behind the scenes. That is the kind of influence now emerging in the Horn of Africa, and it is beginning to redefine how power is exercised in the region. At the center of this transformation is Ethiopia, a country whose importance cannot be overstated. With its large population, growing economy, and urgent push for access to the Red Sea, Ethiopia has become the key to the region's future. Any external power that builds strong ties with Ethiopia gains not just a partner, but leverage over the entire Horn of Africa. This is why global attention is increasingly focused here. When you add the Red Sea into the equation, the stakes become even higher. This is one of the most important trade routes in the world, connecting continents and enabling the flow of goods, energy, and resources. Control or influence over this corridor is not just a regional advantage, it is a global one. And this is exactly why competition in the Horn of Africa is intensifying. What happens here affects far more than just neighboring countries. In this evolving landscape, the contrast between Turkey and Israel becomes clear. Turkey built its influence through visibility, military bases, infrastructure, and public engagement. Israel, on the other hand, is building influence through precision, information, security cooperation, and carefully chosen alliances. These are two very different models of power. But in a world where information and strategic positioning matter more than ever, the quieter approach is often the more effective one. The Horn of Africa is no longer just a regional arena. It is becoming a testing ground for the future of global power. Turkey's influence is being challenged, Israel is rising in a more discreet but calculated way, and the balance of power is shifting faster than most people realize. This transformation is not isolated, it is part of a larger pattern that could extend far beyond this region. Because what happens in the Horn of Africa will not stay in the Horn of Africa. It will shape how power is projected, contested, and redefined across the world. The real question is no longer whether this shift is happening, it is how far it will go. And if you want to understand where global power is heading next, you need to watch this region very closely. The next move in this geopolitical game could change everything.